to OverBoost 29. OverBoost is a podcast interview series featuring discussions with speedrunners about their history in speedrunning and gaming and the runs they're passionate about. I am your host, PMC Trilogy, and with me today is AnEternalEnigma. Enigma, thank you so much for joining me.
And thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't normally do a lot of these, so I just kind of pick and choose. But when you came at me, I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. I didn't even think about it. I didn't have to think about it. I knew I was going to be here. So thank you for having me. And I do like to talk, forewarning. So
no. Honestly, that's why I run two podcasts. So like I'm right there with you. I feel like one of my skills is to gab and make wins. So I'm happy to have you on as a fellow traveler in that path.
Absolutely.
I like to start these off with some current events, and I watch your stream a fair bit in the evening. It's a great place to relax as I'm winding down my day. And something I've noticed the past few months is I think you're working towards something, but I don't know if I've ever caught you saying it formally. But it sure seems like you're trying to learn the speedrun for every Silent Hill game. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. So right around when the pandemic started, around earlier this year, I really was going to sink my teeth into everything. And just the way it works, we don't ever plan these things out. And I don't really pay attention to a lot of metrics. I think that's where I might bust a lot of trends as a Twitch streamer. I don't really pay attention to things a lot. I just kind of watch the chat, watch the community, try to get a little bit of a vibe and try to figure it out from there. I don't really obsess over numbers. I never have. I don't look at metrics. I don't look at this. I don't look at that. But all from once in a while, you got to take a peek. So around April or May, I started kind of feeling this rumbling that things were kind of getting a little bit bigger, to say. So I kind of took a look at everything. Oh, I forgot mute my phone, but I did that, and I thought, okay, well, everybody's supporting the channel, so I like to give things back to people. I like to give people incentives and not just say, oh, gee, thanks, and then just kind of run off with it. I like to do things to thank people for being so gracious to support what I do and my production. So I said to myself, okay, if we get to and I forget what the emote qualifier was for this, but for those of you that don't know, to get emote slots on Twitch, you have to have a certain amount of sub points. It's like a milestone, and I think it's somewhere up in the I honestly can't remember because it's been so long ago, but at the same time it hasn't, because that's the story of 2020.
Time is meaningless. We've been up all night.
Yeah. So, but regardless, amazingly enough, I now have 50 emote slots on my stream. So before that I said, if we get to 50, what I'll do is I will devote myself to learning every Silent Hill speedrun that there is, the mainline games. I wasn't referring to the side games like the play novel and the Book of Memories.
Which I've watched you speedrun. Not speedrun. I mean play. Excuse me.
Play. Yeah. We leave that to Punchy. Punchy did that one once as a joke, and he's going to be alone in that world record. I think the 5-hour run that he did. So, but yeah, I for the longest time, I just ran Silent Hill 4. That was it. And I've run that at GDQ 2017. Still to this day, the only time that ever got Silent Hill 4 in was me. And it's the only time you've seen that yet. For now, that could always change, but as of right now, it is. But for the longest time, I just didn't. So and then I did Downpour. Downpour is just we all know about Downpour. It's a game. It's the last main game of the series. And so after that, and I ended up getting the world record in that and held it for a few months. So I thought about that and I said, I kind of want to start learning all these other games. And then once I started seeing this uprising of support for my stream in the middle of the year, I thought, you know what? I think this will be the perfect thing. If we can get to this point, I'll be more than happy to put like a hold on any of my other plans, because I know people love Silent Hill speedruns, the community. There's such a strong horror community, period, on Twitch. And then a strong horror speedrunning community is also swelling up, and it's just getting bigger and bigger, it feels like, especially now since everybody's at home mostly. So I thought, I'll be happy to put a pause on what I was normally planning on doing maybe this year. And I'll learn all these runs. And we got to that. So I said, you know what, I'll sit down and do it. So yeah, I have spent a good portion of this year learning the remaining games, which was Silent Hill 1, Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill 3, Origins. Earlier this year, I had learned Homecoming from when we were at AGDQ. Another Silent Hill speedrunner, horror speedrunner, just speedrunner in general, Starwin, sat down with me and taught me Homecoming for like 6 hours in a practice room. It was an amazing experience. That's why I miss GDQ. I love things like that. It's just so real. It's just so real. Just people sitting in a room teaching each other runs. It's great. You can't even begin to talk about how fun it is. So we did that, and also Shattered Memories, I think, is my most recent one. So
now is that I'm going to defer to you, of course.
Sure.
What a Silent Hill mainline game is that? Are you now close to finishing all of them, or is there still others out there?
I've got all of them officially.
Okay.
I don't have any recorded times for Shattered Memories, and truth be told, I do need to sit down with it and kind of derust it a little bit, because I wasn't comfortable enough to start timing runs, so I might need to sit down. But Shattered Memories just isn't that difficult of a game either. The most difficult portions of that are the chase sequences. It's kind of hard to remember the routes of where to go. But other than that, it's a pretty simple game. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to step away from the camera real quick. So I want to show you the version that I actually run. Right here.
We're getting live media here, folks.
This is the hallowed PS2 version of Shattered Memories. Let me put my earbuds back on. I have the hallowed PS2 version of Shattered Memories, and this is the one we run. This is the one you get the best times on. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but during the pandemic, the cost of these games on the markets have exploded. This one right here, this one is approaching, if it hasn't already increased it, or if it hasn't already exceeded it, this one's going about $200 now.
Wow, $200?
$200 now. This is, according to my last check on the charts, I think this is the 13th most expensive PS2 game right now on used markets, because they didn't make a lot of these. It's not for quality, that's for sure. Yeah. It's just they didn't make a lot of them. This is a PS2 game that came out in 2010. So there's not a lot of these out there. And I got this 2.5 years ago, I think, for $65, which at the time I thought was a lot. But the prices for a lot of these games have just exploded since the pandemic started. But this is the version. This is the
Silent Hill 2. Horror PS2 games.
Manual and everything.
That's a good copy too, right? You got the manual. Yep. That's just I don't know. Games are so weird, especially. I think you're right to point out the pandemic has affected things. And compounded other trends already playing out. I think we already had a discussion earlier this year about PSTV and what's happened with that.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, I got that over there too. Yeah, I got that last summer. In fact, I think I was at SGDQ last year when it got mailed to my house. I got it on eBay. It was a cool 150. And they were $40 when they came out, when they were on the shelves, and they've just exploded. They're a good little tinker device. You can do a lot of like modding to it and things like that. And for a while, it was the only way you could stream or play Persona 4 Golden on your TV. That was the main attraction of those PSTVs. And then all of a sudden, poof, it shows up on Steam. And I don't know if it's really cut down the price on that though. Like it's still just a device that is pretty popular, and it's a pretty neat little device.
Yeah, no, I had been fortunate enough to buy it. I had bought it an $80 kit with the DualShock 3 and the PS TV, and I was like, this is really expensive to play Persona 4 Golden. What am I doing? Is this responsible? Turns out, saved myself a lot of trouble in the long run. Yeah,
you sure did.
But let's go back in time. I want to know where does gaming start for an Eternal Enigma?
Gaming for me started in the year 1989, a time long far ago. My older brother sat me down in front of the TV in the living room. He had a Nintendo Entertainment System, and he had this game called Commando on the NES, and he put me down in front of it, put the controller in my hands. I think I was 4 or 5 years old, depending on what time of the year it was. I think I was 5, and that was it. It just, the light bulb came on. I was like, oh, I really like this. And then it was just, we just unlocked everything from there. Then I think the next year Super Mario Brothers 3 came out, and then we were off to the races. I remember the first time I played Super Mario Brothers 3 was in the my mom took me to a salon for both of us to get our haircuts, and one of the ladies there had her kid in the back room with a TV and Nintendo, and he had Super Mario Brothers 3, and I played it, and that just kind of sealed the deal pretty much. I was like, yep, this is my thing. And so that's where it all started. But it all started in 1989 with an NES game called Commando, and I was immediately obsessed with it, and we have gone from there.
Now, going from there, did you stay a Nintendo household, and was this something that you continued? Because it sounds like your older brother was instrumental in bringing this to you initially. Was that something that you continued to share going into the future, or did you sort of go off with it was just your thing, in the household?
It became it was mostly my thing. Mm-hmm. It was just a casual thing, but for everyone else. But it just became a thing for me, and I wasn't mostly just Nintendo. Once it became a thing, I got it. I wanted everything. Like, I had a Sega Genesis, the Super Nintendo, and it had even gotten so crazy that I would scour the game magazines, and I would go look at the kiosks at the local stores at the mall, like Sears. Sears in our local mall had a lot of game demo console kiosks. Okay. I remember one day I went in and they had this thing called the Philips CDI in a certain entertainment section. They kept it away from the games. It wasn't in the gaming section. It was in the entertainment, like, audio section, but they had a Mario game on it. So I was like, oh, why? Okay, I'll give it a shot. But I remember that it felt weird. As a kid, I wasn't so, like, critical of some things, but it felt weird, and I don't think it really hooked me. But I'm scouring everything, just trying to get everything, and then I looked in the magazines and I saw this console that came out in 1994 called the Panasonic 3DO, and that thing, for those of you who weren't aware, that thing back then cost $700 in 1994 money. My parents were like, "Nah, we're not doing that." So. And they were kind of wise on that one, but yeah, I don't have any loyalty to a certain like brand family. I love it all. I just try to get what I can, but yeah, it kind of just, everything just became me. It was a me thing, and I was definitely more hooked into it than anyone else in the family, for sure.
Now, going forward, was there a certain point? I think when it comes to sort of continuing with gaming, into our adult lives, one of the points that I like to ask about is, when does when do you feel like you maybe took ownership of it? And when I say that, there's a few examples I could think of. That you saved up your own money to buy a new console, you got your first job and then used that to buy it, or maybe later on, something else happened where you're living on your own and you went out and bought a console for the first time. Do you feel like you have any point like that where you're saying, like, now I've really made it my own?
Well, I've always been really bashful on buying hardware when it comes out. And I tell people that frequent my streams or come to my streams, I have an Xbox Series X and a PS5 right over there right now, and I got them on day one. It's the first time I've ever done that. I remember when I graduated high school, and this is not the same as a job, but it kind of sets you up for this concept. I don't know how things may be now, because I graduated high school 18 years ago, but when I graduated, it's frequent. I guess people, it's kind of like your birthday. People give you money, people give you like graduation money or whatever. And I went out and bought a GameCube, and I think that was the first time that I had gotten something on my own, even though the money was like gift money. I still went out and made the conscious decision and got a GameCube and got Resident Evil Remake with it, and so on and so forth. And my whole job history is kind of because I went to college. I immediately went from high school to college, and my mom kind of kept me centered on that path as opposed to anything externally. So I kind of would just have to do odd things here and there, just to like side stuff to get a little extra money and things of that nature. She tried her best. She tried the best she could to kind of take care of me and steer me that way. But then we had a financial crisis in 2008, which American people probably remember, and that got weird. So that kind of made gaming a little difficult for a few years. But yeah, my first conscious memory of getting something like on my own terms was that GameCube in 2002 and Resident Evil Remake, and it was a great choice. Even to this day, I love Resident Evil Remake. I know I'm known for a lot of Silent Hill things, but Resident Evil Remake is one of the best horror games of all time, in my opinion. And
that's a great game. Yeah,
just streamed it again. It's great, but that's my first memory of that.
No, I think too, you're right to point out something like that. Using gift money or somehow directing that as being a situation like that. I know one of my recent guests, I had to explain to, I think it was Brian Otto, where I mentioned that when I was confirmed in the Catholic Church, my parents were like, "This is important. We're gonna buy you a console." And so I was like, "All right, Xbox, Halo," and that did not put me on the path to being a good Catholic, but it did help put me on the path to other things.
Nice.
So things from there. Maybe on the note of something like Halo, another question I like to ask about gaming history is, we're going to be talking speedrunning, which is almost purely about single player games. But people play lots of multiplayer games, and certainly in the past 2 decades, we've played multiplayer games in a lot of different ways. The eras of dedicated servers, early days of Xbox Live, to things like League and matchmaking. What sort of things have you done over the years?
So one of the best times of my life, and I still talk about it and think on it very fondly. You mentioned Halo. A lot of people who may watch my streams now may not get this because I just don't really stream a lot of these. But in the early 2000s, I was heavily into first-person shooters, and Halo was one of my favorite games of all time, the original Halo. And at the time it came out, around 2001, 2002, was right when I graduated high school and went into college. And Halo at the time, in the early 2000s, was very, very popular amongst college kids. Mm-hmm. So what we would do in Georgia, it almost became like a traveling league where people from one college would go to another college, and it was almost like a grassroots Halo league. And there was just so much Halo all the time. And Xbox really made it easy because it was the first console that had the Ethernet port on it, where you couldn't hook them up directly. You had to have like a little router between them, but unless you had that special cable. But it was so easy to hook up like 4 Xboxes to a router and just have 16 people without having to lug computers around and monitors around. It was totally different. It just kind of streamlined the process. And from 2003 to 2004, like every weekend, we were just cramming 8 to 12 people in a room playing like 4v4, 5v5, 6v6 Halo. Blood Gulch Capture the Flag was a huge thing every weekend. And we would go to these different college campuses, like Southern Polytechnic in Marietta. We would go up there sometimes. Georgia Southern in Statesboro. We would go there from time to time, and it was like all Halo all the time on every weekend. And that was one of my fondest memories. For multiplayer, like Xbox Live stuff, played a lot of Call of Duty. And to this day, I still, even with Cold War, still have every Call of Duty ever made. It's just one of my things. I have a lot of great memories of Call of Duty 4, playing with my friends, and they would bring their Xboxes over, and we would just get together and play on Xbox Live. And Call of Duty and Halo really brought a lot of good memories for me in terms of the multiplayer gaming sphere, especially Halo. One of the best times of my life was just getting together, playing Halo, and pushing out the world and not really acknowledging anything else was going on, but trying to 3-shot people with a pistol. That's that's one of my best memories, was all those Halo weekends.
Yeah, no, it's funny hearing that, because I had very much everything you said about networking and Halo were the same lessons I was learning. Of course, I was in high school at the time, but I was doing very much the same thing. Where I was like, oh, I went to a Radio Shack to get the Switch to connect my, to connect my Xboxes with me and my friends. So. I was telling that to people, and I think I still have that too. And of course, it still works because it's the same Ethernet still hangs in there.
It all works.
Now, later on after that, like, did you ever get into anything? I guess more current, the past decade. It sounds like maybe you've still been playing Call of Duty, but any MMOs or MOBAs or things like that?
Not really. I've kind of skewed backwards almost with streaming and everything that's kind of started for me. And I don't know if you'll ask about this later, so if you are, I'm sorry for jumping the gun, but I started streaming in 2011, and I started streaming just to kind of play games that were in my backlog, and to play games maybe on hard modes, because at the time, Justin TV streaming was very popular for like these brutally hard games. Like, I Want to Be the Bashi, I Want to Be the Guy. They would get for what it was at the time, it would get huge viewerships, like 100 or 150 viewers. That was huge back then, because people loved watching those soul crushingly hard games. So I thought, maybe it might inspire me to play these games on hard modes or just attack my backlog. It was never like, oh, I can get famous on this, because nobody was famous or making money in 2011. So I've kind of trended backwards a little bit. I've just kind of gone back to the horror games and like the single player experiences now. That's not to say that wouldn't change in the future, but as of right now, I still pop in Call of Duty once in a while, but it's nothing that I binge on anymore. I'll usually play like 2 or 3 matches and I'm satisfied. And Fortnite's the same way. If I just want to play something, I'll just play 1 or 2 matches and then I'm satisfied. Pop in Halo Master Chief Collection, same thing. So I've trended kind of back towards single player games instead of the multiplayer stuff, but that could always change as well.
Well, so I think you already got to where I was about to go, because one of the things I wanted to ask is that I thought I had heard you say in the past that you had been streaming since Justin TV, which you just said as much. And following on that, I wanted to ask, I assume that means that streaming was in your life before you discovered speedrunning?
Yes, absolutely. So in 2010 or 2011, I was also heavily into fighting games. I'm a huge Mortal Kombat nerd. You could put Mortal Kombat on anything in the 90s and I would find a way to get it. That's how obsessed I was with Mortal Kombat. I was a big fighting game person. And so Justin TV was really good for broadcasting fighting game tournaments. And I would watch these fighting game tournaments. That's what initially pulled me to the gaming directory on Justin TV, fighting game tournaments. So I would watch these, but one night there was no tournaments on. There was just nobody streaming fighting games. So I'm taking a look at the directory and I saw a streamer by the name of Man vs. Game playing Ninja Gaiden on his Xbox. The Xbox version, not the NES version, the Xbox version. And he was streaming. He was sitting on a couch with a green screen behind him. So he was like blended into the game. And he had something like 100 or 150 viewers. And the moment I saw that, it's like the light bulb went on. And I sat there and thought, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And I really think this is going to take off. And I just immediately tunnel visioned on that. I didn't have a lot of resources because we were still in the middle of a financial crisis and things just were not going well economically for me or my mom at the time. So it's very limited on what I could do, and I had to work kind of differently to make it happen. But I got some equipment, started streaming. I made my account in February of 2011. It was still Justin TV. And I did my first stream on August 2011. In August 2011, it was a blind playthrough of Silent Hill Origins, which was my original goal. I wanted to attack games that I just hadn't been motivated to get to on my own time. And I thought, maybe sharing these experiences with people would inspire me to play more different things. And so I booted up Origins and I played it, and I had a modest viewership for it, for considering what it was at the time. There was maybe, it's so hard to explain this to people that may not have been there, but I tried my best. So Justin TV's game directory would have 16 channels on a page. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. It was 4. It was like four rows of 4. So 16 on a page. And it was not very often that you would have more than 7 or 8 pages. So there was not a lot of people streaming games at the time. But on my first stream, and these days with Twitch being so saturated the way it is, it's so hard to get any kind of visibility if you're just starting and you don't have any kind of prior background anywhere else. So my first stream, I had a concurrent viewership of 25 viewers, and that kind of throws some people off. It was just different back then, but I had a lot of fun with it, and I thought, this might be something to go off of. But we started from there, from Justin TV, and then it just kind of moved on forward.
Can you give a quick snapshot of what hardware and software you would have been using to stream in 2011? Because I feel like it's become, like, to me, having only started streaming in, like, say 2014, I already feel like we're in a different world of accessibility when it comes to hardware and software. But starting from 2011, I can't imagine.
Is way different now. And I actually may still have the capture card in my closet over there. It was a USB 3.0 Blackmagic Intensity Pro capture card. That's what I used. And it was so primitive that you had to go into, for instance, if I'm streaming a 360 game, it could only output 720. It couldn't do 1080. So you would have to go into the console and manually change the resolution every time you wanted to stream. You had to go in and change it to 720 instead of it being able to auto detect and scale. So it was a different time. But the Blackmagic Intensity 3.0, I think is what it was, or Blackmagic Intensity Pro. It was a USB 3.0 device. That's the first thing that I used.
And then would have just been XSplit at the time for broadcasting software?
So I love this story too. So XSplit wasn't a thing in 2011. XSplit was okay. There was it was, but it wasn't. There was this program called VH Screen Cap, which was the precursor to XSplit. But at the time, it was still being, the transition was being made. Because I think they saw what was about to happen. So the folks behind VH Screen Cap, I guess, were going to turn it into this thing called XSplit. And XSplit was if it wasn't early beta, it was alpha at that time. So one of your only options, I think you had 2 options if you wanted to stream back in 2011. You could either drop down $500 for Wirecast, which was something that professional broadcasters used. There was no middle ground. There was nothing meant for like us streamers. Or you could download this thing, and I may be getting the name wrong, so I apologize, but it was something like Adobe Flash Live Media Encoder. And if you want to scare yourself, go type that into Google Images and search up and see what it looks like, because it is some primitive streaming technology. But those are the 2 things at the time. And then thankfully, I think about 6 or 7 months later, XSplit popped up and they had their free beta program, and that's where XSplit became a thing, and we took off from there.
Cool. Well, so maybe let's go forward a little bit in time then. You know, obviously you're streaming, you did, Silent Hill Origins, you're doing some other stuff. When does speedrunning catch your eye? When do you discover that?
So about a year later, streaming from 2011, 2012 just absolutely blew up. It just blew up. And that's when Justin TV splintered off and just made themselves a gaming only website called Twitch. So that's about when it happened, because it was like the rocket ship just flew in the air. And I started noticing some of these streams where people were playing video games really fast were getting popular. And the two streams that caught my eye were Siglemic speedrunning Super Mario Brothers 64 and Narcissa Wright speedrunning Ocarina of Time, I think it was. And those two I was seeing what was happening in not only just the streams, but I'm also, when I watch something, I try to consume everything and kind of get an idea of what's happening, just the energy. And I would watch the chat on Siglemic's chat, and I'd watch Narcissa's chat, and I just knew something was going on. It's just another one of those things where the light bulb went on. Like, something's happening here. Like, this is something none of us have ever seen before, maybe even thought about before. And this is getting huge. Like, no other way to describe it. This is getting big. So those were the first two streams that really caught my attention, and I was hooked. And those were not two games that I ever really had a lot of experience with. I didn't get an N64 until late into its life cycle. So I wasn't familiar with Super Mario 64. I wasn't really familiar with Ocarina of Time, but I was hooked to these streams, and they had the timers on the screen and all these splits. And it was just this crazy production that none of us had really ever seen before. And at the time, Twitch didn't have well, I think they did, but very few people had sub buttons on Twitch. And there was no bits. There was none of that. There wasn't really a whole lot of ways to monetize Twitch. And the only reason that it really became a thing is because of what I saw was happening on these speedrun streams. A lot of these streamers would just have a PayPal button beneath the stream. And there were no alerts, there were no overlays, there was no nothing. But people were finding this. People were so hooked into it. They said, oh, let me support you. This is incredible. And I remember the only thing that anyone had back then, I remember Siglemic doing this. You could just hear his phone. He'd pull up his phone and be like, bing, 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 bing. It would be all these PayPal donations or tips coming in, I should say. It was just bing, 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 and he'd look at them and just read them. That was how we did alerts back then. We just saw the phone, and that was it. And so the way things are now was kind of born from that. The people figuring out a way to do it, and then Twitch later just put a little interface on top of it. But those two streams, Siglemic and Narcissa, those were the ones that I really honed in on first and got me into this whole speedrunning thing.
Yeah.
And one more thing.
Go ahead.
On that, because I just remembered this. Way back in the day, before any of this, before YouTube, but Speed Demos Archive was a thing. And I played a lot of Tomb Raider. I was a big Tomb Raider fan. And me and one of my friends would hang out a lot at the house. And for some reason, I don't know how I found it, but I found Speed Demos Archive, SDA. And at the time, they would just have these video links. And if you were lucky, you could download them depending on how much bandwidth they had. But they had a run of Tomb Raider. And I downloaded, it was maybe 7 or 8 different videos that you just had to download them all separately and watch them off your hard drive. And me and my friend would just sit here like Homer Simpson, watching these people play Tomb Raider so fast. That was the thing that opened the door. But when I got on Twitch and saw Siglemic and Narcissa, those are the two things that kept me in the door.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I was about to say, I very much have some similar memories. Certainly, summer of 2012, I always just think of as the summer of Siglemic.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah, exactly 100%.
What gets you to the point where you're doing it yourself?
So I had a little bit of success on YouTube beforehand. I ran into some issues streaming on Twitch. I don't know whose fault it was. I don't know if it was XSplit's fault. I don't know if it's my computer's fault. I don't know if it's my ISP's fault. It's probably my ISP, but I don't know for sure. But so I just couldn't stream anymore without dropping frames everywhere. And it was really frustrating. So I thought, okay, well, I'll try YouTube. So I started to get a little bit of a YouTube following. I had put up some reviews. They were like warning videos. Silent Hill, the Mortal Kombat arcade collection launched and it broke it online. So I put up this video. I was like, hey, it wasn't even video. It was just me talking. I was like, hey, here's what I've read. Buyer beware. be careful. And before I knew it, the video had 50,000 views. And I was like, what? How did this happen? And then a few months later, the HD collection came out. That happened. And that blew up. So I thought, I may have something here. And so gradually I was able to stream again. And thankfully, OBS was a thing in 2014. And I wasn't dropping frames anymore. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they figured it out. I don't know what was going on. But regardless, we had it figured out. So I thought, I've been watching these speedruns for about 2 years now. Another, and I forgot about this. Another person I would watch a lot was Adam AK speedrunning Grand Theft Auto. I was obsessed with his GTA 3 speedruns. And I watched those a lot in 2013 when he would be on there. So I thought, man, I really got to get into this. And I thought, what is something that nobody does? Because I'm always trying to think about what does nobody do? What is something that I can do that nobody does? And at the time, I didn't really see a lot of horror game speedrunning. It was a lot of action game and Nintendo games from back in the day and popular games like marquee games. But I thought, I got to do something different. I always got to do something different. I mean, I think you can still see that these days. I have the jacket, the lights, the slot machine. I got to do different things. It's like I used to be in the wrestling business, and they always used to say, if everybody's screaming, talk real quietly. If everybody's whispering, be the loudest guy in the room. It's just trying to do something different. So I thought, nobody's doing horror games on Twitch. There was one dude named, Crimson AE. He speedran Silent Hill 4. And Silent Hill 4 kind of got my attention because it wasn't my favorite of the Silent Hill games, but it was the most bizarre and the most, I'd say, unsettling and scary of the games for me. So I thought, all right, nobody's really doing this yet. I'm going to do it. Like he was the one person that did it on YouTube and nobody was doing it on Twitch. So I thought, I'm going to give it a shot. And that was the first game that I learned, first game that I sat down and routed out in its very primitive eras. And that's what brought me to Silent Hill 4. I wanted to get into speedrunning because I just saw how much, it wasn't so much the success. It was just, I saw how much everybody loved it. I saw how much everyone enjoyed it. I would watch these chats and people would just blow up at times. And I ultimately just, I like getting reactions out of people. I like making people feel good. I like giving people something to be excited about. So I would see all these reactions when good things would happen during speedruns. And I was like, man, I want that. I want to get and give that energy to somebody. So I picked up Silent Hill 4 and I found out, I kind of routed the game out myself, eventually took the record about a year later, but that's where I started. That's how I got into it.
So, following up on that, and I think if I remember right, these the streaming and speedrunning certainly at this point have now become, and if we're going chronologically, have become intertwined for you. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like there is a certain? I think I know the answer to this, but would you say there's a certain point when the streaming side really took off for you, so that you were able to eventually arrive at it being your full-time work?
There definitely was a point. It was slowly building beforehand. So I used to be in the pro wrestling business. I was a referee for about 7 years, and I loved it, but it just wasn't working. You don't, unless you're in the top things, you're not making any money. Mm-hmm. And it's not about money, but you still have to pay your bills. And I was having a lot of trouble doing that. I backed up on credit cards. So I was like, you know what? I gotta do something else. This is just not working. So I had to go get a job, my infamous call center job. I went and did that. I tried to do everything. I got a full-time job, away from the stuff that I had been doing, like with my mom's business and things like that, where for a while there, I was working for my mom for free for 2 years to try to help her meet payroll. That's how bad things had gotten. I worked for free for 2 years while still trying to do YouTube and all this. Mm-hmm. I just had too many. I was trying to put too many eggs in too many baskets, and the wrestling thing I knew just wasn't working. I had kind of light communication with WWE, but it was just different back then. They had very few spots for refs. So I was just like, okay, that's not going to work. So I had to turn around. And that's kind of a scary proposition for somebody entering their 30s. It's like, well, because you're trying really hard not to look at it as a waste of time. But the streaming thing really started picking up, but it was a slow pickup. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just like an overnight success yet. There was a point where it kind of did. But, you know, from 2015, I started dedicating everything, all of my off day energy to streaming, just all of it. I cut the referee stuff out. I just started doing this, and I would work full time, and I was working full time, 40 hours a week every 40 hours a week every week. And I didn't have consecutive off days. My off days, I think originally I had consecutive off days, but in 2015 they changed. There was a Sunday and Tuesday. So I never even had consecutive days off. But it was slowly building. And then I applied for AGDQ 2017 for Silent Hill 4. I had never submitted for a GDQ, but I remember watching AGDQ 2013. That was the first GDQ I ever watched. And that was a few months after speedrunning was really starting to pop off on Twitch. And I saw the energy, and the whole week, it was a blast to watch. And I thought, man, I would really love to be a part of that. It's something like I had never seen before. I'd never seen anything like it, and I wanted to be a part of it. So I applied for AGDQ 2017, not knowing a darn thing about anything, because I just winged it, did whatever. I didn't look up, oh, this is how you write your submissions. This is what you do. I just filmed a submission video, entered it. And I remember I was leaving work one night, and UFO Techie had tweeted a screenshot and tagged me in it. And it was me getting accepted into AGDQ. That's how I found out. Techie tagged me in a tweet. And I think all he said was lit, L-I-T, lit. And I was like, whoa, I got in. So then I had to figure out how I was going to get there. But and that is an incredible story in and of itself, those few days leading up to AGDQ. But AGDQ 2017 was the time. That was the one for me. I think beforehand, I had applied for Twitch partnership a few times and gotten declined, just like a lot of people do. And I think I was getting about an average of maybe 90 to 100 viewers on the speedrun streams, and maybe about 60, 70 if I did anything else. That's just how it goes on Twitch. You play your main stuff, and I accepted that a long time ago. It doesn't really. I just know that's how it is. But I did that, and we did AGDQ 2017, and it was kind of stressful because of all the travel and all the work. Work wouldn't give me the day off before, and they scheduled me the first day of AGDQ, and work would not give me the day off. They moved my shift back because I worked 4 to midnight, but they moved me back to 9 to 5. But I'd worked 4 to midnight the day before, so didn't get a lot of sleep. And then I have a lot of adrenaline traveling, and I'm just like, what? Oh my God, I don't know what's going on here. I have no idea what's going on. I just didn't sleep at all. I did sleep, but not a lot. But I got AGDQ completely delirious. My run is at 4 a.m. There's absolutely no one in the room because it's 4 a.m.
I was wondering about that.
Hard.
Yeah, I watched the video for this, and so definitely not everything's making sense as you described this.
Yeah. So I flew to DC. It was the first time I'd ever flown. It wasn't the going through security was scarier than the actual flight. I didn't care about the flight. I was like, if I can get through the security for the first time, I'll be all right. But I did. Flew to DC. We met up with a friend who let us stay there, and I just couldn't sleep, couldn't take a nap, couldn't do anything. I got in at like 6 or 7 p.m. My run was scheduled for 2 a.m. But it got pushed back. We know how that goes. I remember Pessimism ran Resident Evil 0 right before me, and Maxi ran Devil May Cry 2 runs before me. So, and I was supposed to be on Maxi's couch for that one. And I don't know if you go back and watch Maxi's thing, but I'm just sitting here like, I'm trying to stay awake because I hadn't slept in barely in any 2 days.
I had watched that particular VOD for Maxie's interview, and I I was wondering, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to ask.
I'm also nervous because I've never been on a couch before, and you can't really see the chat. And at the time, there was no sub-only chat, and GDQ chat could be a little brutal. So
yeah.
you don't really know if you're going to say anything that you think is funny, and then they're like, "Oh, shut up," stuff like that. So I'm just kind of sitting there like clammed up, and I'm also trying to stay awake, and I'm just like, and I'm nervous as well. I'm like, oh God, what if my equipment doesn't work? Just anxiety stuff. It was easy for me to get back then. But we got on, did that. We did AGDQ. We did Silent Hill 4. I don't remember the first 5 minutes of the run because I was delirious. But as soon as I got to the escalator, I woke up, and then I remembered things, and my ears were buzzing because I discovered that my ears don't like it when planes descend, and I had really bad tinnitus, and I couldn't hear a thing that was going on. I did that whole thing just hearing echoes like in a hallway. It was horrible. But I got back to the place around 5 a.m, and it was 7 degrees outside. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at my phone, and I still had follower alerts on my Twitch email.
Oh.
And I was like, bum, 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 and I was like, what on earth is going on? I got maybe 3,000 followers from that.
Wow.
Silent Hill 4 was trending worldwide on Twitter. When I looked at Twitter, I was like, oh my God, what in the world? And my friend who's big into stats, who I used to work with at the call center, he was the one who knew all about Twitch. He was the guy I could actually talk to about it. He loves stats, and he messaged me. He's like, dude, GDQ at like 4 a.m. went up 40,000 viewers when your run was on. I was like, what? And he showed me a chart. I thought, what in the world? Because I thought I was dead to the world. I was just being me, like a really muted version of me a little bit. I was wearing this thing.
Yep.
The NWO hoodie right here. I wore this to my mom's house yesterday. Yesterday was her birthday. I wore that. I had the old NWO hoodie, a piece of history. But I thought, man, I didn't really know how I did because you can't really watch the chat.
Yeah.
But then I'm seeing my email just get blasted with follower notifications. I look on Twitter, and Silent Hill 4 is trending worldwide, and I'm thinking, what on earth is going on here? Like, it didn't scare me. I was just like, I was surprised. I just thought, wow, holy moly, what is going on here? And then I got back, and I had maybe quadruple the viewers that I had from the last stream I did before. And I got partnership on Twitch about 3 weeks later. And I stayed at my job for maybe about 2 or 3 months because everybody warned me. And at the time, I know this is a long-winded answer, but I like giving everybody details. I'm a very detail-oriented person. I want to take you on my story. So back then, there were no gift subs on Twitch. It was just subs. That's it. It was just subs. There were no gift subs. Gift subs are a big thing on Twitch now, but back then there were no subs, or there were no gift subs. It was just you sub, and that's it. So everybody kind of warned me, or not everybody, but a few people who knew kind of warned me. They were like, everybody's going to support you the first month, but don't make any decisions based on that first month. Everybody sees a drop off the second month just because it kind of just wears off and things of that nature. Well, my second month did not drop off. My second month was an increase, and I thought, I hate this job. I'm seeing some incredible momentum here. And I would never in my life forgive myself if I didn't take the shot. Knowing it was a safe shot, knowing I could go back in 6 months if it didn't work. It was a calculated shot. And that's why I always warn people. It's like, take your shot, but calculate it. Don't you got to think about it. So I put in my 2 weeks notice, and I'm still here. So it was that period from AGDQ to April 2017 where it really, really hit me. I was like, this might be the thing. And in February, I'll have been a Twitch partner for 4 years. And in April, I'll have been doing this full time, just me, for 4 years. And It's been a ride, but that's where it started. That those first 3 or 4 months of 2017 is where it really became clear that this was it.
That's cool. That's a neat story, especially just how harrowing the travel and being at the event and
wicked
all the things set up. That's really neat to hear that. Well, and of course, since then, as we discussed earlier, you've speedrun a bunch of Silent Hill games. You've done various things, and so I always like to get a few takes about, especially for a runner who has done multiple games, of all of the games that you have done runs of. What is your favorite speedrun to do?
Silent Hill Homecoming. Don't even have to think about it. It's Silent Hill Homecoming. That game is so glitchified. It's just incredible. That's the one where earlier this year, before our planet blew up, we were at GDQ, and Starwin, who at the time was the world record holder, he was really into teaching me Homecoming. And at the time, I had only known 4 and Downpour. But Homecoming is such an entertaining mess of a speed game because it's just broken insanity. And it's only gotten more broken as time has gone on. But we were all in the practice room that one night. I want to say it was that Tuesday that we were there, and finally got together. And I was like, Starwin, this is it, buddy. Let's do it. Let's go learn a game. And we must have sat in that room maybe 6 or 7 hours, and I had calluses on my index finger because you have to keep hitting the triggers to do the clips and things of that nature. And it was such a fun experience learning, and I'll always appreciate him for taking the time to teach that to me. But Homecoming gets so much, and even everybody, I see a few people in the chat that were in the room watching, and it was so fun learning everything. And there's so much excitement when you actually get a clip, when you get the clip, because it's not guaranteed. That game's got its own brain. That physics system has its own brain sometimes. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's kind of frustrating. But when you get a clip and you feel it hook in, it's a good feeling. And now with the Series X, the Xbox Series X, we've gotten the time. We potentially get the time down even further because there's just no loading times anymore. With that, I think maybe the longest load time on Homecoming now is 3 seconds. I think that's it. So we're going to take the time even further, but it without a doubt, it is Silent Hill Homecoming. It is just a cavalcade of insanity with glitches, and everybody just loves it. And that's the thing. That's the thing with me. I love reactions. I love getting people hyped up about stuff, and it's just that game is such a broken mess that it would be hard pressed for me to pick anything else. Homecoming is my favorite one. Yeah,
I know. I love watching it too. I love glitches, and that's definitely one where I was like, oh, Enigma's playing Homecoming tonight. All right, well, I better get over there. What's the flip side though? What's your least favorite of the speedruns that you've done?
Least favorite, I don't have one that I hate. I'll be completely honest. I don't have one that I hate. There are some that are obviously frustrating. Downpour is up there because you cannot skip the cutscenes. Mm-hmm. Downpour's world record right now, I think, is now with the Series X load time gains is 2 hours and 34 minutes. But Downpour is an easy speed game. There's nothing to it. It's just go to the right place, pick up this item. There's nothing difficult about it. The only thing that's difficult about it is you have to sit through 66 minutes of cutscenes that you can't skip. We haven't found a skip yet. They recently just found a door skip for Code Veronica, which cut the run down about 40 minutes. So I'm hoping at some point we can figure out something for Downpour and get rid of these stupid cutscenes. So, but right now it's not there. Origins, Silent Hill Origins can be a little bit of a wacky game because of the stamina system. You have to drink energy drinks, and that one kind of throws me off a little bit. And the sanitarium is a very confusing little place. But there's not one. I don't know if there's one that I dislike really, because everybody enjoys watching them. But I'd probably say, for practicality's sake, Downpour there's a big barrier of entry to Downpour because of the cutscenes. You have to skip through. You can't skip through 66 minutes cutscenes. So that one's particularly rough.
Do you feel like something with Downpour, as someone who is streaming with a big capital S, streaming, does something like that where, because of the barrier to entry of Downpour, is that almost sort of like, I don't want to say you enjoy it, but like certainly it gives you time to do streaming stuff. Do you ever think about it that way?
Yep, 100%. Yep, it gives you time to talk chat. If you got to get up and go to the bathroom, there's 2 cutscenes in that game that are extremely long. Easy to go downstairs, get a drink, go to the bathroom, knock out all your break stuff during these cutscenes. So there's definitely a streaming bonus to it. It's something that'll drive you nuts if you're probably by yourself, but when you've got a chat with you, it makes it a lot easier. But it's ironically a good stream speedrun game because it gives you a lot of chance to talk to people and things of that nature. It's really bizarre. I remember when I ran Downpour, it was supposed to be a total joke. It was another emote slot goal, and UFO Techie and Nub Zombie both kind of coached me. It was back in March of 2019. That's where the whole the coach jokes came from. Mm-hmm. But Techie and Nub both ran me through Downpour, and I was only going to do it one time as a joke. It was just a joke, but I did it. We did the stream, and I ended the stream, and I thought that was really easy. That was not bad at all, and there was a lot of downtime for talking because of the cutscenes. And I came back to it, I think the next day or a day or two later, and I remembered everything about the route. And I thought, wow, this is pretty easy, and everybody seems to enjoy it because Downpour is just a big meme joke game pretty much, but everybody just genuinely likes watching it because of what it is. Mm-hmm. And I have no problem broadcasting that experience. So I was like, you know what, if y'all are into it, I'm into it. Let's do it. So I probably played it maybe 2 or 3 days a week. I didn't even really grind it. Maybe 2 or 3 days a week. And in about 3 months, I had world record. So, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that I had the Xbox One X. But we later found out that depending on the type of Xbox One you had, it affected your load time. So I didn't know that at first, but it was just a thing that what it was. And then it came from there. But
no, that makes sense. I feel like there's a certain sort of element of watching a bad movie with friends, but also doing a speed run. You're kind of doing both.
And Downpour is perfect for that. It gives me time to chit chat with people, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to talk with people. I'm not here to put a camera on me and make people like watch me have fun. I'm here to have fun with people. So it gives me a great opportunity to chat with people.
What about a game that you would like to speedrun, but you haven't gotten around to either for time reasons or because it doesn't fit with what you're doing right now?
It would have to be for something that doesn't fit right now. I just I don't do anything outside of Silent Hill speedruns just because that's just the way it is right now. But lately, a guilty pleasure of mine is watching Mortal Kombat speedruns. And I used to be really into Mortal Kombat. I still am. I just don't obsessively play it like I used to. But I've really gotten into watching like these Mortal Kombat 2 and Mortal Kombat 3. I forget the name of it now, but the battle plan type thing, the single player. Yeah. They call it the battle plan in Mortal Kombat 1. Just watching people go through these things really fast. It's really intrigued me. And I feel like I could learn all that stuff because I played Ultimate MK3 at a super high level back in the day, like 15 years ago, like really high level MK3 stuff. So those have been kind of intriguing me. And if I ever stepped outside the box, it would probably be something like that, or maybe like a Resident Evil game, like Pessimism's got a stranglehold on Remake, but Remake's one of my favorite games. So I would just love to sit down and just learn it. Mm-hmm. And I would do that kind of on my own in the past, just unlocking stuff. Cause I think you had to beat the game in under 2 hours to get the rocket launcher on the GameCube version. So that would be another natural choice for me, probably, as Remake.
No, that makes sense. It's good too to highlight fighting game speedruns because I think a lot of folks maybe sleep on them, but there are folks out there doing that. I'm just gonna say real quick, there's a marathon called Speedy Fists. If you're foreign to the universe of fighting game speedruns, search that. And I know some people who do those, and so it's very, very interesting to check out. I think, another take I wanted to get from you was when it comes to doing speedrun, which can often have a lot of repetitive motion or streaming and being sedentary, do you have any takes when it comes to maintaining good health?
You got to make sure you take breaks, and you got to drink a lot of a lot of water. I make sure to be as loyal as I can to taking breaks every 2 hours. And just make sure you're putting, my diet's not the best, but it's not the worst either. I really clamped down on my diet about 2 years ago. Just make sure that you get out, you walk, you at least just move around. You got to keep moving around. You don't have to be running at a sprint. Just move around. Drink a lot of water. Don't put horrible food in your body, especially before you go to sleep. Because I know sometimes, and it's easy for me to fall into this trap too. You stream and then you'll go sleep afterwards. But if you're like snacking on stuff before you go to bed, your stuff won't break down properly in your body. So just those are my main things. Just keep moving, drink water, don't ignore your body. Take a break anytime your brain is telling you to take a break, or take a day off anytime your brain is telling you to take a day off, because you will not enjoy what you do, and it'll show. But this is just basic stuff. Just listen to your body and keep moving and drink water.
No, that's super solid advice, and it's certainly the listen to your body. That works for, I think, everything you just said. And even more, when it comes to any sort of fitness or working with controllers or stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, one thing I wanted to maybe ask about, I should have rearranged my script here, because I wanted to get back to maybe a little bit following off the GDQ thing. One of the ways that you've been involved in GDQ since you're running Silent Hill 4 is that for a number of events now, you have settled into this host role, and I think I remember from GDQX 2019, you were doing hosting work at that, and you do a great job. I'm not surprised at all that they keep inviting you back to do that. Do you have any sort of story to share about how that happened? Was that just something you decided to go for and then kept sticking with as they invited you back to do it?
Just something I decided to do. I just thought it would be. I love I'm naturally somebody that likes to provide excitement, and it's not even so much for me. I just like getting people whipped up into a frenzy for good things. My mom, I tell a story on stream all the time, but my mom told me that whenever someone would ask me what I wanted to do when I grew up, I didn't have the conventional kid answer. I told everybody I wanted to be a game show host. That's what I wanted to do. So I like the whole GDQ concept of reading donations and getting the big ones and hearing the crowd react if there's a crowd in there, depending on what time of the day that it is. I love all that stuff. It gives me a rush. I don't get a lot of rushes anymore because I'm old and tired, but I get rushes from that. I like saying things and getting reactions, even if it's not about me. It doesn't have to be about me. Just any kind of announcement. I just like doing it. It's one of the things that drives me. So at SGDQ 2018, I put in an application and did my audition, and they accepted me, and I ended up doing it, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think the first one I did was, if it wasn't the first one, it was one of the first blocks. I think it was JTB doing Resident Evil 4. Mm-hmm. And I was so nervous the first 5 or 10 minutes, but as soon as I did it, I felt like I was at home. So I just fell into it. And to be clear, just to kind of give some clarity on the process, I do have to audition every time. Like nothing's a given. I have to audition just like everybody else. And I compete with everybody. And there's so many more people that apply every time. And I'm very proud of the work. I'm very proud of what I do. And as time has gone on, they've put me in some very important positions. At GDQX, I did the finale for Hazeblade doing Resident Evil 2. And GDQX may be considered like a side thing. So, but it was still incredible. It was still the best. And then AGDQ, I looked at the schedule and they had me on the finale for Oats and Goats doing the finale. And I thought, oh my gosh, like this is the big one. And they put me on that. Like they put me on this. So there was a lot of pressure on me to do it. And I also used to make sure you don't step over the speedrunners time talking. I talked to Oates and I was like, look, there might be some milestones here. And I promise you, I'm not trying to but he was great. He was awesome. And it's just those moments, that the idea of having my voice attached to the $3 million announcement at AGDQ. It's not so much the fact that it's me, it's the fact that I got an opportunity to relay very exciting information to a humongously packed group of people in a room, and seeing that reaction. Like, that's something I will take with me to my grave. And GDQ hosting gives me the opportunity to do that. And that's just the idea of being attached to moments like that, just legendary moments like that. That's why I got into it.
No, I mean, I had the opportunity, of course, to see GDQX live, and then I watched AGQ, and they were great moments. And I just glad to hear it from your side of things. Just the excitement about relaying that sort of news, which I think is a great energy to bring to it. So I'm going to segue just a little bit to the some of the games. Kind of, we already talked a lot about Silent Hill so far, unsurprisingly. That's not.
That's my thing. So.
Yeah, that's your thing, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think we covered how did your interest in the series start, such that you ended up doing things like running Silent Hill 4 and Downpour and whatnot.
Sure. Okay. Are we talking just like from a general perspective?
Yeah. I would say an origin story. Meaning that you played the first one on PlayStation, or you played 2
sure.
on so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing, I have a very vivid memory. Remember things like yesterday. So when I was 17, I went to my cousin's house up near Atlanta, northern Atlanta, and he had Resident Evil Code Veronica. He had rented Code Veronica. And when I got there, it was in the morning, and he was playing it in the living room on TV. And he was playing Code Veronica. Well, we remember, those of us that had Code Veronica, it came with a demo of Devil May Cry. And the way his video store had it set up, I guess they didn't know any better, or they just didn't care. So they put the Devil May Cry demo in with the rental disc. It wasn't Blockbuster, it was some local thing. Mm-hmm. So they put Devil May Cry in there. Well, he got obsessed with Devil May Cry. And that was the day he had to take the games back. So when he was taking the games back, he was like, I'm renting Devil May Cry. I'm renting Devil May Cry. Blah, 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 blah. So he was like, yeah, but he's like, yeah, but you're here for a few days too. So let's pick up something else. Well, this is the power of television commercials back in the day. I didn't play Silent Hill 1, and this is about maybe, I want to say, around Thanksgiving of 2001. So I was 17, Thanksgiving 01. We had the week off from school, so I drove up there and we just hung out, because I used to hang out up there a good bit. And I saw these TV commercials for a game called Silent Hill 2, and they look really creepy. So I thought, I'll pick that up while we're there. And he of course played Devil May Cry, because we only had one PS2 available to us, and he was the person. I didn't care. So I was like, okay, well, when you're done, we'll play some Silent Hill 2. And we had like one or two friends over as well. And we got into it. Like it was at night. We turned all the lights out. We jacked up the volume. And we were expecting like a Resident Evil type game, like with zombies and monsters and things like that. That experience. But you open the game and it's like, okay, I'm here looking for I got a letter from my dead wife. And you're thinking already, this is already a little bit different. But you got, at least for us, our brain kind of goes back to Resident Evil, and you're thinking, is she a zombie? Like, is she going to be a zombie? The simple stuff like that. Then you play it, and it becomes very clear something is different. It's not Resident Evil. It's something very different that's going on up here in your brain, and you're thinking about things, and things are just kind of subtly put in front of you. And I just remember all four of us in that room were so captured by what we were playing and what we were experiencing. We were all like, what's going on here? Like, what is going on? And then you find Maria, who looks like the wife, but she's different. And it's like, what is going on? It was just such a different vibe from Resident Evil, which was just, zombie. Here's a little memo, zombie, which is not bad. It's not bad at all. I love it. It's just this was different. This was on another level for me. And Silent Hill 2, the more I played it, really, really captured mature themes and presented them maturely without being recklessly immature about it. Well, there's nothing wrong with a little reckless immaturity. If anybody's watched my stream, you know that. But the way this presented itself was on another level. And at the time, I had been going through some interesting things in my life with some serious topics. I was 17, but 2 years earlier, my dad had passed away. So I had kind of gotten a little more intimately connected to serious topics than a lot of other people my age at that point had. So a guy looking for his dead wife, I'm only 17. I'm never, marriage is not a thing, still isn't a thing, but it's just one of those deals. It's like, I may not have had a relationship like that, but it's like this, I can relate to, he's looking for this person that was very close to him who is now gone, but he thinks they're still there. And all these little twists and turns about he's tricking himself. And it just got me in a way that a video game had never gotten. And they tackled all these topics, and they didn't make a mockery of them. They didn't make light of them. They presented them as what they were. And that really is what got me in. And then just a few months later, I went out and got Silent Hill 1 for the PS1 and played that. And then after I did that, I was like, wow, I'm completely hooked to this series. And then I got Silent Hill 3 the day it came out, and so on and so forth. So, but Silent Hill 2 that's where it kicked on for me.
No, that's great to hear. I had a question as a Silent Hill expert. Then I wanted to present. Now, I usually try to present questions that are informative for listeners, but I'm going to be selfish here, and I'm going to ask a question that may have a more limited audience. But for someone who's never played a Silent Hill game before, what should be the first Silent Hill game they play?
2.
Okay.
It's got to be 2. Yeah. That's Silent Hill 1 and 3 are kind of connected to each other. 2 is its own deal. I just think Silent Hill 2 is an experience that you just won't get anywhere else. Silent Hill 1 and 3 are great games, but 2 is in its own universe. And it's just it obviously it won't hit with everybody, because nothing hits with everybody. But it's the definitive game in the series that you've got to play. And if you can get your hands on the PC version, there is an incredible team of modders that have put out a mod called the Enhanced Edition. They have done unspeakably incredible work to modernize that game while preserving the experience. Like, if you look at it, it's Silent Hill 2, but it's cleaned up. For the PC version was kind of weird, because it was farmed out to a third-party developer that added all this weird stuff to it and maybe didn't take the most care of it. It's got a lot of problems. But Silent Hill 2 really brings that into it's what HD Collection should have been. HD Collection is a disaster of epic proportions, and the Enhanced Edition mod, I think, really lowers the barrier in terms of what we expect from modern games. Because you may take a look at this game and it's like, wow, like if you play it on the PS2, it looks a little dated. It's a 19-year-old game, so it's like, yeah. But the work they've done on the PC, the Enhanced Edition mod, does so much to make it easier to consume for modern audiences. That's the one for me, Silent Hill 2.
Cool. No, that's I think that was my expectation, but still good to hear. And also good to hear too the best way to play it. I find so often when we go back to these older games, you get into all these different questions of versions and all these other elements, and so to see people taking care of it that way too is great, especially especially when the rights holders maybe aren't doing that. So.
And Konami sure is not.
No.
Now, I won't rip on them too much because there's a really good port of Silent Hill 4 that just came out on GOG, and they did a really good job with it. GOG did, I think, all of the work, but I mean, Konami still had to approve it, and they did. So
sign off, take
there's
the
a
effort.
really good port of Silent Hill 4 on GOG now.
Yeah, no, that is interesting, that recent development, because I know MGS 1 and 2 also ended up there in various states, which I heard good enough for, which is, we'll take it, right?
Acceptable, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to start heading for the exit. Here's one thing I like to ask. I've started doing recently, just because for people who do spend a lot of time streaming, inevitably it seems like if they have pets, those pets show up. And I wanted to ask if you had any particular stories, including maybe an origin story for either of. I'll make sure I get this right. It's Tom and Vinny, right? Are your cats?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tom and Vinny. They're. I don't know particularly about an origin story, but Vinny was. Well, let me start with Tom. So Tom, he's the oldest one. So Tom. We had a tornado come through 2008, I think. If you're asking for an origin story where they just came from, we had a tornado come through, and then a few days later, our power was out at I was still living with my mom at the time, and our power was out for about. I want to say 4 days, and then the day after it came back on, this cat showed up at the porch. He was just meow 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 meow. He was clearly hungry. And a few months before, my childhood cat had died. There was if you go look it up, in 2007 there was something weird going on with like contaminated animal food or something like that. And unfortunately, I think my old cat Stimpy got caught up in that, and he died. It's a weird thing. He died the day BioShock 1 came out. So BioShock 1 is always kind of a weird thing for me because it always brings back weird memories. But a few months later, this is probably about 9 months later, we had a tornado. Everything got screwed up here. It was bad. Like. It was so close to us, my ears were popping when the power was out. Like, that's how close it was. So this cat shows up. Meow, 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 meow. So put food out. He ate it. He never left. And he's still here. He's not upstairs, or else I go grab him, but he's still here. He's still wandering around. He's with me 12 and a half years later, and still doing good. And Vinny was gotten from a rescue shelter, moved into this house about I want to say about 5 years ago. Person I live with picked up Vinny from a shelter, and he's just been around ever since. They just both kind of show up, and we got some cool clips of Vinny. Vinny's just the person that just kind of you just hold him and he's just like, ah. But Tom, he's not so much a fan. You pick him up and he'll just be like, rah, and then he'll kind of like hit my forehead and things like that. But there's some clips of he'll be on the little drum stool next to me. I'll put my hand up and he'll high five me. So but they're cool. They're very big parts of my production. Everybody loves them. So I'm glad I could get them in. But that's where they came from. Cool.
No, that's good information. I like to hear that too. I've just myself, I've never been a pet person, but this past year, since my girlfriend now spouse moved in, she always wanted to get a dog, and so of course once you're in a house and she has the opportunity to get a dog, she did that. And so now this has been my first year, and it's been such a blessed coincidence, to have a pet while being stuck at home. So
yeah, while trapped in. Yeah.
Yep. So one of the things I like to do, this is of course an interview series, and so I like to add a little connective tissue, and I'll get a question from my previous guest for my next guest. And when I ask for the question, I want to emphasize that I only tell the person that your next guest is a speedrunner. You don't get to know anything else.
Okay.
And so my last guest, D Cosmic, had this question for my future guest, which was, if you could take songwriting credit for one song, what song would that be?
A Cradle of Forest and Silent Hill 4, the one that Joe Ramirez sings, where it starts, they heap in the forest. That one right there, that's the one. That's the one. I didn't even think about it.
Didn't even have to think
one.
about it. Excellent. Well, maybe you can think then of what question that you would hand off to the next guest. Again, you know they're going to be a speedrunner. The question doesn't have to be about gaming or speedrunning. It can be, obviously, that was a great example of a question that was not necessarily about gaming or speedrunning. But what question would you like to hand off? It can be silly as you want,
Just about anything.
Just about anything, The first person that I did this to was KZ Frew, and his thing was, if you can mix two consoles to make a new console, just to give you an example.
I don't know if I can be quite as creative as Frew. He's very creative young man. Another person who I met at AGQ 17, which was also made that event very memorable. I would say, we were kind of talking about this last night. So to whoever is on after me, speedrunner, but this won't necessarily be a speedrunning question. We like to talk about food a lot. So I want to know what food changed your life that you thought you would hate before you ate it.
Okay, so what food changed your life that you thought you would hate before you ate it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that's the one.
Awesome. Now, the thing I usually like to do is I will let you know. You might know who this is. Their name's been showing up in speedrun circles, so I'll give you a DM there. So, but that'll be fun. That's a good. I don't think I've had a food question before, so that's actually
welcome to me.
Yeah, I know.
We're talking about food.
Perfect. All right, so winding down here. Now, of course, I know your streaming stuff very focused on Silent Hill and Silent Hill speedruns, but I know you also work in new releases too, and so I wanted to ask, are there upcoming releases that you are excited about right now?
Definitely looking forward to Cyberpunk coming out in a few days, and definitely looking forward to that. I think it's actually going to happen. I'm trying to think. Everything is so Cyberpunk is definitely on the horizon, and I am kind of curious about Halo Infinite. I know it's had a little bit of a rocky development. It was supposed to be a launch game on the Series X, and it's not happening. It's in a little bit of a limbo right now. It's still going to come out, but it's Halo. I'm always curious about Halo, but Cyberpunk is definitely on the list for me. And I'm a baseball person. I'm very curious about MLB The Show 21 because this is the first year MLB The Show is going to be on multiple consoles. Major League Baseball made Sony make a deal. They made Sony put it on other consoles. So it's going to be on the Xbox Series X. And I think there's going to be a PC version. I'm very looking forward. I know it's a yearly sports game, but this is the first MLB game of this generation, and there's some new rules on this one because they got to make it on Xbox and PC. So I'm kind of curious to see how that turns out. So Cyberpunk is definitely on my radar, and I'm very curious to see how MLB The Show jumps into the next generation.
That's interesting. I feel like I had read about that news of MLB The Show being published on PC and Xbox.
Crazy.
But I guess it didn't quite connect that it was still Sony having to do the publishing, right?
It's Sony.
Yeah.
Yep. It's crazy.
That's
for the longest time they just had it. It was Sony. They're a first party developer. There's not like exclusivity. They're just Sony. They're going to make games for PlayStation, and Xbox hasn't had any good baseball games good licensed MLB games in a long time. So when Sony renewed their agreement with Major League Baseball said, you're going to make this for other platforms now. Sign it. And that was it. So they did. And it's going to be really weird playing a Sony game on an Xbox if I choose to go that route. But going to be, and I don't know if they're going to make a Switch version. I think they'd be silly not to.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But Cyberpunk and MLB looking forward to see what they bring.
Cool, awesome. Now, with this content coming, Enigma, where can people find you? Where should they be watching for you?
I am at twitch.tv/AnEternalEnigma. That is where I am. I'm on Twitch all the time. I don't really do anything elsewhere. With the recent, the DMCA kerfuffle, I've been kind of thinking about maybe using my YouTube as an archive. I've recently kind of I privated a lot of stuff recently, just trying to reorganize some things in the background. I didn't delete anything. I got a message today saying, hey, I got on your YouTube and I saw a bunch of your stuff was gone. Is it okay? I'm reorganizing things in private, so don't think all that stuff's gone. It's still there. I just made them private for the time being. But right now, Twitch is my primary thing. I don't plan on anything else. Twitch.tv/AnEternalEnigma. That is where you find everything that I do right now. It begins and ends right there.
And of course, that if you're watching this or listening to this after the fact on YouTube or Spotify or whatever, the link to your Twitch page, as well as some of the VODs that I watched in preparation for this interview, will be available. So of course, check those out. Follow Enigma. I know someone that I as I mentioned earlier in the interview, I wind down to at night all the time. Enigma, thank you so much for giving me all this time.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I rarely do these, but I get very excited for them because I love talking, and I appreciate you having me. It's been a lot of fun, and this hour and a half just flew by. It was a lot. It was a good time.
Now I do need one more thing from you in order to properly end an episode of OverBoost, which is that I'm going to use a cheesy catchphrase like "Let's boost on out of here." And then when I say that, I need you to give me your best rocket engine noise.
You want me to put the reverb on? I can do that.
You can do that, yeah. I mean, I hope it doesn't mess with Discord too much, but I mean, we'll find out, right? The only one way to find out.
We got to find out one way, right?
Exactly. Folks, Thank you so much for listening. Let's boost on out of here. All right. We're in there. Okay. So anyway, that concludes the episode proper. Folks in chat usually kind of post the proper script. I like to do a little a little live Q&A. Enigma, I think, said as long as you still have time.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm here. That sounded more like a dinosaur, but hey, we'll pretend the rocket was in a dinosaur.
It was a Flintstones space rocket, right?
Exactly. But yeah, I'm here.
Here we go. We got Xeon right away. How long do you see yourself continuing to stream? Do you feel like you have any sort of 5-10 year plan as far as that goes?
Just as long as the audience has me, pretty much. I think Frank Sinatra said it back in the day. The audience will tell you when it's your time to go. But as of right now, they're not telling me to go. So I'll just kind of feel it out. In terms of a plan, I've always kind of had it in the back of my head that maybe one day I'll need to go back to the old job. Maybe I don't really want to, but it's there if I need to, because I know these things don't last forever. Nothing does. So, but I've been very, very careful coming from somebody like myself who went through a lot of financial hardships in the late 2000s and the early 2010s. I've made very, very sure to preserve the success that I've had. I won't have any kind of issues financially for quite a while, just because I don't really spend frivolously. I don't do anything like that. I'm very minimal on what I do. I'm very much preserving myself for the future. But I'll be here as long as folks will have me, and that's just my that's just how I've always gone with it. I'll never try to force it if I feel like it's over, and I'll never embarrass myself trying to hang on. Just I'll be here as long as people enjoy what I do.
So we got one from Llama Trot here. What was the inspiration behind the additional community interactions that you do in your streams? I assume referring to things like the wheel and whatnot.
Well, the one of them, it's just the whole thing about being a game show host.
Mhm.
I had visions back in the day. I never did this, but I had visions back in the day of integrating the Silent Hill 4 hospital hallway with the Key and Eileen into some sort of a contest or in some sort of a show or some sort of a game show. I had ideas of doing that. It never happened, but the wheel stuff, it's just how this is one of the things that happen. I like making hype. I like hosting things. And I think I was one of the first people that actually integrated a wheel into giving subs to your channel. Like as soon as gift subbing became a thing, my mind, whenever Twitch brings out features, the way my brain works is not, how can I get this to benefit me? Maybe I'm a bad streamer for that, but my brain is, how do I use this to get people excited about what's going on? And sometimes it does throw people off about, how many subs I gift and things like that. But that's just the thing. I get much more of a thrill from making people happy and giving things away than for me to care about or for me to micromanage anything else when I know I'm okay. So any community interaction that you see on my stream, like marbles, the wheel, I'm now in a thing where you can bet channel points on Twitch. You can wager channel points. It's literally channel points gambling. It's the greatest thing they've implemented in ages. I just cannot tell you how much I love it. Anything I do is just to get people excited and to get people involved. I'm not trying to get people like, I don't want people. Somebody asked me the other day, it's like, how do you feel about people potentially like worshiping you or something like that? And it's like, that's not every one of my goals with this. I'm just trying to get people excited and give people some sort of an escape from the real world. And I'm not trying to get people all like hooked into my life or like having to obsess over what I'm doing all the time and things like that. I'm just trying to get people excited when I'm on the camera, and those things like the wheel, marbles, like the new channel points bet thing, just anything. I'm just trying to make a few people happy and get people excited about something. It all comes back to that little, I want to be a game show host thing, pretty much.
So Sight of Kanzian asks, you're very high energy, bombastic during your streams. And your streams go on, since you do it full time for some period of time. Any particular thing that you do to recharge?
I make sure to relax. I don't try to overdo it. I don't have a schedule. Some people will notice that. I don't have a schedule. And one of those things is I have my days mentally on when I know I should probably be on, and those are Wednesday and Friday. I don't know why they are. It's just, and sometimes that doesn't even happen. Like 2 Fridays ago, I didn't get on. So I have a thing where I make sure to relax, because you have to, I give a lot of energy, and you can't just turn it off. You have to kind of just let it wind down a little bit, and just have to make sure to relax. And you have to keep I have to keep myself grounded and not get too overdone with some things, which is, when I'm on, I mean, make no mistake, I'm me. And you've met me before, so you know that who you're talking to right now, that's me. I might just be a little louder and a little more amped, just because I know a camera and a mic's on, and I'm just trying to get people excited about things. But anybody that's met me knows I'm the same person. So maybe just a little quieter, but I'm still the same person. But you just got to try to relax and not think about things all the time. And sometimes that's a hard trap for me not to fall in. Just try not to think about streaming or doing this. And sometimes you just gotta stop and smell the roses from time to time. And I know this year that can be really difficult for some things, but that's my thing. Just got to make sure to relax. And if I wake up and I don't feel like that's a day where I can confidently make somebody laugh, I take the day, and that's it. stay in tune with my brain pretty much.
Yeah, no, I think that follows up on what you said about the health question too, which is, you know, listen to yourself, and that includes, of course, taking breaks, you know, when you need to.
Always take breaks.
Yeah.
I promise you, your community, if you've really hooked into community, they'll never leave you. Take your breaks. Take your breaks. Do what you need to do. Because the only thing that will last with you forever is you. Nothing else is guaranteed. So take your breaks, but I promise your community won't leave you if you've really gotten a good one.
So we had a question from Westwind Flight. I think I already kind of asked this, but maybe you can just restate it quickly. After you have all Silent Hill speedruns in a comfortable place, are there any series that you would consider running next? And I feel like you kind of said like Resident Evil HD Remake, for example, might be one of them, but was there anything else you would want to add to that?
Devil May Cry.
Mm-hmm.
That's another series that I've had a lot of personal time with, especially Devil May Cry 3 back in the day. The amount of time I put in Devil May Cry 3 is sickening back in 2005. So that would definitely, that was another thing. I forgot to even mention that. That was another game that before the time of YouTube and things of that nature came out, I was downloading all these people doing speed runs or really high point playthroughs of Devil May Cry 3 on Dante Must Die difficulty. I was really into that. So like Resident Evil, maybe I might dabble with the Mortal Kombat stuff, and Devil May Cry speedruns are really interesting to me too.
All right. I have never played Fortnite, so I don't know what this means. What level are you on Fortnite?
You know, I don't even know. I'm going to be straight up. I haven't booted that game up in a spell. Now there is a very controversial photo. I saw Fru saying I stay out of the tabloids, but there is a very controversial photo of me from AGDQ playing Fortnite in a hotel room in one of the rooms. So, you know, there was a lot of controversy on that event. And it was me playing Fortnite, Brosa, Fate, Little Caesars. It was controversial for us all. That's about the most controversy you'll see from us. So. But I honestly don't even know. I don't know how they do the level structure on Fortnite anymore. I don't even know if they do levels. I don't think Fortnite does levels. I think it's just, hey, buy our battle pass or advance in the battle pass. I don't even think they do levels. If they did, it's news to me. So,
KZ Fruit takes credit for how far we've both come in the time that he's known us. And he
he deserves it all. He 100%.
Right. He can take it.
I don't argue that. He's incredible. He brings it all together.
Makibake would like to know about your hair care routine.
So, I actually don't do a lot. I mean, at my age, I'm 36. At this point, a lot of it's luck. Let's just put it this way. It's genetic luck. But I do have these biotin. I do have a biotin supplement that I take. 10,000 mcgs. Take one a day. They do help. They're not gonna be a magic thing, but I think they do help. And I don't use conditioner. Conditioner always. I just have a really weird hair type. My hair doesn't like conditioner. It just flattens it and kills it and just basically glues it to my head. Not a thing. I use the OGX shampoo in the purple bottle. I have recently started to use a heat protector spray, but not a lot, just a basic thing. That because I do tend to iron it. Sometimes if I air dry or blow dry it, my hair down here, it is a little broken just from coloring and stuff like that. And my hair does tend to break because I have always had really thin, coarse hair, not really like thick, strong strands of hair. So I have to be very careful, and it does break easily. So I have heat protector spray, and I sometimes I'll iron this to just smooth it out. But my hair up here stays fine, but it's very minimal. That's it.
Okay. Now, I don't know if this is something that you need to pass on this one because it might divulge things about you. Feel free to do so. But Metal Waldo asks if you can share any stories about the best match you were a referee for.
I didn't really do anything like high key. So truthfully, my most memorable moment in wrestling was not refereeing. I did an episode of TNA Impact Wrestling I want to say about 9 years ago now, in 2011. And they had all the stars there because that was back when they were spending a lot of money, and they had all the old WCW and WWF guys. And the most memorable match I had, I did referee a match with Brian Danielson in 2010, I think, where he's briefly fired from WWE because of the tie choking thing, but they brought him back like a month or two later. But I got to work one of his matches, and it was like a 45-minute match, and it really tested my cardio. So that was pretty cool. But my most memorable referee moment was that TNA show where I got punched in the face, not for real, but where I got socked right here by Cowboy James Storm, and then Sting came out and they cut a promo. They told all the people working at security, they're like, when you get punched or you get attacked, just die on the stage, don't move. So it's like bump, bump, bump. They got me. They did the thing. Sting came out. He did the interview, and it's like I'm laying on my stomach, like on the ground, and Sting is from where I am to that slot machine. Like Sting is that close to me, and I'm just laying on the ground pretending like I'm dead, and I'm just like, that's friggin' Sting right over there. This is the coolest day of my life. So that was the best day that I ever had. And ironically enough, it wasn't the thing that I was doing for 7 years. But I did a Bryan Danielson match, and that was pretty fun. That was pretty fun.
I was never someone who followed wrestling, and so for me, my favorite wrestling story was always that when I was in high school. Of course, I was a band kid in high school. I played trumpet. For whatever reason,
so did I. All right, cool. I played trumpet.
Oh, there you go. My band director and some of fellow musicians got roped into doing a gig for some wrestling thing. I couldn't tell you what the name since I didn't follow it, but I can remember turning on broadcast television and seeing them having, they were like a small ensemble. They were playing by the ring, and then at some point, as a part of the act, someone showed up who wasn't supposed to be there, and they all had to act scared. And of course, they're not actors; they're just a bunch of local, filiary musicians. So
yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, it was very, very fun. My band director got roped into some wrestling thing that was on TV. So it's interesting. Awesome. I don't know, it's cool, but I should go back and find. I don't know if that it would probably be hard to search a bit part like that. Like that would be the thing I would have because I have that name, but.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
That sounds interesting though.
Yeah.
That sounds like a wrestling thing. That does. That sounds like a wrestling thing for sure.
Here's a question now. So Leon Elite asked specifically about a HD mod for Resident Evil 4. I might expand that a little more just to ask about mods, because I feel like recently I've been seeing more people stream mods and speedrun mods. You already talked about a restoration mod for Silent Hill 2, which is a different creature, right, than probably what we're thinking of here. But is that something that you would do? I don't know if there are mods like that for Silent Hill. Certainly there are for Resident Evil, but
let me see the question again. Who let's see.
So that was Leon Elite just asked about, specifically Leon Elite asked about Resident Evil 4 HD mod. Which I assume is just an upscaling mod for HD. I don't know, or is that?
Yeah. Okay. I know. I know what they're talking about now. Okay. So a few years ago, there was it's like HD realism, or Maxie knows it. Like there was something that came out for Resident Evil 4. I played it. I don't know. Usually, using mods, depending on the community, is not accepted,
right?
Because
it would be its own thing,
Yeah. But if it's its own thing, I mean, the door's always open. Because I know in Silent Hill 2, you can't use the enhanced edition mod. They don't have a listing for it, so it's just one of those things that if you do it, you're not going to submit times, right? But you always can. Nothing's stopping you. But the door would always be open for that, for sure.
You could play GTA with Silent Patch. Just don't submit it to the leaderboards, or they'll find you. All right,
find you and hurt you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that is about it. I mean, I see a lot of scandal about Little Caesars.
It's gonna follow me forever. So. And I got Broseph in on it. And finally on January, it was like, we're going to Little Caesars. You're eating Little Caesars.
I think
Broseph, anyway, it happened.
Broseph, I think, is always behind the conspiracy, because what's actually going to happen now is I'm gonna let you escape from this broadcast, and I'm going to continue my casual play on stream of Broseph's sub pick. Would you like to guess what Broseph's sub pick is?
Take a guess?
Yes.
Oh,
there's a moment during this podcast when I probably lost the color in my face because of a game that you talked about on tonight's podcast.
Oh, I mentioned it?
You mentioned it tonight.
Oh gosh. It's not Downpour, is it?
No, it's not Downpour.
Okay. Devil May Cry, I don't know.
So Broseph's subscriber pick on my channel that I am continuing. Oh, wait. Actually, before I reveal that, I did miss a question. My apologies, Redheaded Queen. Several people have asked about this Murphy pillow. Where do you keep it?
Where do I keep it? Well, right now, admittedly, my area is a little bit deorganized. I'm trying to redo everything right now. But right now, the Murphy pillow is where it belongs, randomly in the floor for the cats to, specifically Vinny, to just kind of chill out on, rub his face on, maybe lay his head on. So right now, it's in the floor. I see it. It's right next to it's right next to the front door. And Vinny just comes on in and he just kind of rubs his face on it. So I've just kind of left it there for him. But
okay,
I'm sure I'm kind of doing a concept for a background now. If I get rid of the green screen, I might implement that. I've been thinking about that, but we'll find a place for the Murphy pillow. But right now it is safely nestled in the confines of my floor where Vinny can lay on it and protect it, because he can protect it more than I will. But
absolutely.
But yeah, that's Vinny's using it as a pillow right now.
So anyway, to finish what I was saying before, for folks who want to stick around on my stream, and certainly I've appreciated everyone, listening and watching and asking questions. It's been a wonderful recording, absolutely excellent. But I will be continuing my playthrough of the first BioShock, which is Broseph's sub pick.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I briefly mentioned that. Yeah.
So
nice.
If you want to stick around for that, certainly I'll appreciate it. But if people need to bounce too. But I think
I will. I'll keep you on. I'm going to go make dinner after this, but you will be my dinner background noise as I cook.
Background noise.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
you'll be in the kitchen with me.
Excellent. What better place to be eating?
I know, right? No place better.
All right. Well, I'll let you go. Thank you again, and hopefully I'll see you at an event sometime in the next year or something like that. When it's safe to do so, of course.
When it's safe and we get it all figured out and we can do it, we are definitely going to reprise Sushi Time for sure. So I'm looking forward to it. And thank you very much for having me. I always appreciate anybody that takes any interest in my story. And I've known you already before this, so it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Have a great night.
See ya.
Bye.